Hello, are you ready to get steamed up? We're looking at 9 subject area integrated education. I'm honored and humbled to be invited to speak today and share my passion for and knowledge of STEAM in education. Thank you to the ITEEA organizers for arranging this webinar. Today, we are going to delve into the concept of STEAM as a framework for STEM, technology education, and other subjects as well. If you don't already know, the STEAM research movement developed as a result of me being a technology education educator at the middle school and high school levels and an integrative education STEM student at Virginia Tech. Therefore, STEAM is very interested in helping others see the inherent value of technology and STEM work as one of the strongest disciplines to combine the content and methodologies of other areas. The pictures on the slides represent 3 important concepts. The logo includes amalgamated definitions from government and professional organizations made simpler but still accurate for the K-12 community and the average person. We all know that too much comes out of the educational world that needs deeper explanation, and I strive to present things so that people can take them forward themselves. Once the definitions are understood, then the connections between the subjects is the next thing to grasp. I have conducted the research to show how the subjects relate to one another. Often, science, languages, and maths are seen as the most important subjects. PISA tests reinforce this. I saw a need to justify how all the subjects are needed and work together and help save the subjects where the silos come together, like technology, arts, music, and physical education. We know as technology and STEM educators that we overlap with all the other subjects, especially the other blended subjects. This led me to further investigate the subjects. This pyramid represents the subjects as they map to one another and to the research institutes and the business world. The subjects of science, technology, engineering, and maths have had their subtopics well established for a long time, and when new areas develop, they further branch those divisions, or, like biotechnology, become hybrid topics between the fields. The topics under the liberal arts had not been mapped, so I did the research through K-12, collegiate, research and professional fields to map those. Collectively, this pyramid represents the scope of what we need all global citizens to have a basis in, and also the many scholastic options for students to explore for further research and potential career options. I ask STEAM educators to help students find a path for themselves. I began with a course called What's Your Point? In the course, students are exposed to a large variety of mini projects so that they can see what things they gravitate towards being interested in and comfortable exploring, and also get exposure without a deep risk of exploring those things they might not naturally be interested in. This identifies opportunities for your students. It empowers them to learn more about all of the silos, be most effective in using their talents and exploring their interests, and also reduce their limitations. I do what I do partly because I feel we have lost what the goal of education is. We have so much high-stakes testing that the focus has become content. Those of us who've gravitated towards technology education tend to not be huge on being test givers or test takers. Therefore, I looked at the goal of education, and I feel it is our job to prepare the next generation of society. Our goal as the people who prepare every other professional as educators is to enable the future society by having people realize that no matter who we all are, we all do things including getting, making, selling, buying, using, and disposing of products and influencing others to do so. How we do that individually and as societies impacts everyone and brings the world forward in all kinds of ways with all kinds of impacts. We need our students to envision a new world with plans and prototypes by exploring needs, wants, and opportunities. Reinvention is something we all do when envisioning a new world with plans and prototypes, while exploring options and understanding those needs, wants, and opportunities in the whole world. Doing that purposely and with insight almost always culminates in better results. Wearables is one of the largest emerging markets, and I encourage projects of this type as they are deeply engaging for students and also needed for society. My goal is that STEAM helps with functional literacy, for people to be functional and also have more fun. I often get asked to speak on human capital, which is what every country has to go forward with in this world. People's actions are based on their understandings of the world around them. Therefore, creating lifelong educators and understanding on how to move forward as an individual for a collective society is key for everyone's success as an individual, a culture, a world, a universe. As educators, one can have effect like ripples that we can support each other or cancel each other out. With STEAM, educators work together to collect and disseminate information, knowing what each other is doing, so that we are able to influence those students as they are holistic learners, understanding what each of the other educators is offering the students. As our children get older, we are able to keep their bodies alive longer, but there isn't much we can do still for the human brain. We know exercising the human brain is the best fight against dementia. For people who need rehabilitative work or have dementia issues, STEAM works for them too. If more synapse connections in the brain are made with cross-curricular information, as things are taught in tangible and in theoretical ways at the same time, then there are more synapse connections in the brain being made that fundamentally take longer to break down in later years. As a recap, phrenology is making sense of information personally. Offering students multiple ways to make sense of information means that they are making more sense of the information and retaining that logic longer and more able to interconnect it with other information. I did a review back to the 1400s of modern education of what are called the epistemologists. Epistemology, which has the word STEM in it, which is really cute, is actually the philosophy of education. So a summary of the history of the epistemologists shows this basic overview. When learners are engaged, they are learning more deeply. So having fun with learning doesn't mean they are not learning. It can mean they are learning more deeply and with happiness. Good associations with learning are integral to developing lifelong learners. A goal of epistemology is to look for the commons among the silo subject area pedagogies and relate that to people's physiology. This goal has been called holistic learning. It's very hard to teach holistically. Everyone learns holistically, but one can say that the exact same thing to identical twins, and they're going to interpret it differently. STEAM is what I believe to be a close way to being able to teach holistically, with the understanding that the ideal is not achievable. Curriculum needs to be purposely planned so that projects show the students how the content they need to learn is used in reality and reinforced in other subject areas. This gives them reasons to want to learn the content and transfer the knowledge across the content areas. We do this well in technology and STEM. Students should be able to engage with topics that are in reality. Many teenagers are wonderful engineers, and if the students learn how to learn, they can be adaptable to make the world better while they are still children. It is important to harness their energy and make them excited to improve things, which means giving them real projects doing real improvements and not just canned projects. They get very excited about this, and so do we. Many of you will be familiar with the technology, engineering, STEM, integrative STEM trends in the United States, so I'll quickly recap them. We know that originally STEM started as silos. Please give them more science, more math, and some technology and engineering. And then in the past 15 years, we are looking at an integrated or integrative model of STEM, being things are integrated for students or things are integrative so that students and educators can continue to bring them forward. We've also seen a lot with PBL, project-based learning. There's actually 3 different versions of what that acronym means. And they're all slightly different, but significantly different as well. What I like to use is RBL, reality-based learning, as I believe we should bring students through project-based learning into reality-based learning, which means we are connecting them with real professionals on real projects to make real differences while they are still really more than only children. There have been 3 big STEM conferences in the United States that have popped up in the past few years. Obviously, ITEEA offers one, and I believe the best one. NSTA also offers one from a science educator's perspective. And there is one geared towards parents and students, primarily by big business to get students interested in technological and scientific fields. I hope all of you know this wonderful man, William Duggar, who's been a mentor for mine for 20 years. His definition of STEM many years ago encouraged me to look at where to integrate the arts. He said, the study of technology and engineering is not possible without the study of the natural sciences, and this in turn cannot be understood in depth without a fundamental understanding of mathematics. I don't believe any of us would argue with him. Let's talk about the definition and divisions of science. Science is the natural universe and where everything comes from. Think periodic table of elements and how we can reduce everything back to that. There are many divisions of the sciences that students won't necessarily take a class on, and we don't want to track them towards or away from certain science classes, especially if they've never had an understanding of what they are. So how are we supposed to encourage people to take on scientific understanding if we primarily teach the linguistic organization of canned science experiments instead of having students do real science across the spectrum? Therefore, I advocate for all branches of science to be introduced to students with real scientific investigative projects before the age of 6. If the brain learns languages best between birth and 6, then we should be laying the framework for the base vocabulary and methodologies of the languages of all of the universal subject areas at that time as well. Biomed, biochem, and biotech are generally not even taught until high school, and even then, usually only briefly and recently into the curriculum. If we want to excite our students about these options, we should excite them when they are little, in their exploratory and wondering ages, and build that momentum throughout their elementary years. I feel silly offering the definition of technology and engineering to STEM teachers, but I will. The basis definition of technology that I use to help people realize that it is more than electronics is tools and innovative devices, uses and enhanced abilities, and this also includes processes. The base definition of engineering that I use is purposeful innovation, creation, and analysis. The divisions of both of these should be familiar to most of you, especially since the technological divisions come from ITEEA themselves. The maths, yes, with a plural, not a singular. The maths is a fact-based organizing language. Without math, no other language can be used consistently. Math cannot be lied with, but is the basis of technical and social language that can add in deeper and broader meanings with the constructs of math. So no one really doesn't like math, because without math, we can't have any way to communicate, including music. All of the previous information brings us to look at the STEM acronym and then make a leap to what STEAM adds in. Just as STEM does not replace science, technology, engineering, or mathematics, STEAM in no way tries to replace STEM. The phrase STEM to STEAM is not one that I use or advocate. To me, it is like saying science to STEM, and that is not logical. We have and need science. There is research to establish in that field, and also in the field of STEM, and now the field of STEAM. This clause helps people see that STEAM contextualizes STEM in the humanities, but still very much sees the need for grouping the STEM fields together. STEM organizes the materials, principles, and processes of what and how things can be done. STEAM includes why and by whom things are done. Now let's look at the arts. The arts are so much more than design, and they add in who and why to the what and how of STEM. So many people are using the STEAM acronym to simply make pretty. Oh, does that make me sad? Liberal arts is including the humanities, ethics, ideals, and expression. They can be categorized as the humanities, which includes the fine arts, social arts, and the physiological sciences. Again, so much more than making pretty. In this way, STEAM formally adds in the silos of language arts, social studies, music, fine arts, and PE. Again, helping us justify where we and all the other subjects belong in the matrix of all the subjects. In STEM programs, the scope of projects usually revolves around the science topic. In STEAM projects, that scope revolves around social studies, because you can always fit science into social studies, but you can't always fit social studies into science. If our goal is to have students have a transference across the curriculum of knowledge, then we need to include the spectrum of the curriculum, especially the contextualizing agent of social studies, to offer them a basis by which to transfer the knowledge. This is especially important for students before the intermediate years, when they obtain their abstract thought. Social studies includes how society develops in the past, present, and future. It's not just history. It is important to get to know how things developed to where they are now, and most important for our students to think about where we were and are now that can get us where we want to be. The future for them is so much more important than the past. So linking the past and the current to the future helps them have an appreciation for it. Societal constructs and ethics are not often taught in the West. It's something the East has done well to keep included in standard curriculum. The Western world is beginning to realize how important this aspect is, and that global ethics can be taught without aligning to any one moral code, but that teaching about many types of moral codes is valid for understanding international relations. In that way, we also link to STS, Science, Technology, and Society, which means how society and technology influence each other, adopt things, and reject things based on the society and the advancements within it. The actor network theory is something many people have not heard of, but we all experience. It means we are affected by our surroundings when we learn as much as by the people in the room. In this way, we advocate that STEAM classrooms should be representative of what you're learning about and essentially become a hands-on interactive museum of the topic being investigated. The social arts also includes education. So how can we as educators not put an importance on social studies when we fall under those confines? And moral coursework is covered under this grouping. No matter what morals we have, all students should have an understanding that ethics with STEM is a very important concept. When we cover language arts, we often box ourselves into our own language. But there are different languages, and across the spectrum of languages, there are 3 areas of language inherent to all of them. The base language is the language of mathematics. Although it was not the first language developed, it was among the first components of all languages that were developed in the sense that words were used for quantities, qualities, logic, and negotiations. Technical language is the second type. It's used to convey information and facts for things such as instructions. Technical writing is how, and social language incorporates why. That would be the third type of language, the language used with the ability to give reasoning to what. These languages scaffold on each other. You cannot have technical writing without a certain amount of social writing, and you cannot have technical writing without a certain amount of mathematical writing. However, you can have technical writing without social writing and mathematical writing without technical writing. Pictorial languages have a whole word concept to be conveyed with each character, whereas alphabetic languages are letters constructed in groupings to be combined. Each type of language accesses the brain in a different way and results in a different type of use of concepts and characters. Having students learn something about both will help them immensely. Texting is the new generational Esperanto, primarily developed by students, but we don't necessarily allow it in schools. I believe that texting is going to revolutionize education and linguistics globally and pull itself into what we teach in schools. It's also more easily accessible for people to use emojis than to use different words. Again, a picture can convey 1,000 words, and a water droplet means water to people no matter what language they speak. Now let's talk briefly about the fine arts. The fine arts most often are represented by painting, sculpture, music, and other tangibles of using mediums to appeal to people's aesthetics and auditory likes and dislikes. They are the oldest sustainable pieces of learning about previous cultures from before we had written records, photographs, and videos to document what was happening in the development of the world at different times and in different places. These pieces are cultural keys to the past and development of where we are now. They show much about where different cultures were with developing technology and understanding science. Engineering designs often suffer if the developing team does not include the arts. One can make a great product, but if the culture it is for is not interested in accepting it, then it won't change the world. If it's not ergonomically designed well, it could hurt the world. Therefore, aesthetics, ergonomics, and psychology of the design are as important as the design itself. This is a chart of how many people proportionally speak which language. I show this so that people can realize it's not just another language, but another contextualized concept of culture that groups people into accepting, developing, agreeing, or dividing. Polycots' brains last longer because they do not just learn words in other languages, but they are able to transfer concepts between cultures that may or may not have words or understanding for such things to be transferred. When someone can understand and explain concepts across multiple languages and across multiple intelligences, then they are bound to be working with universal ideas. Our students who can do this will have great advantages in our globally interconnected world. I will touch briefly on some key concepts to think about with incorporating the musical arts. Sound meanings came before words. Means people are happy. Means people are unhappy. We know that throughout our classroom without our students saying anything, just the noises they make. Sounds convey meaning. Music is a variety of sounds put together in ways to convey complex meanings. We know mnemonics help most people remember things. Having social language to add feelings to math and technical language helps people learn things. Rhythm helps people learn math. Sound is strongly related to physics and the construction of instruments within your body and tangibly constructed ones. Videos are fine arts plus music to help students make connections among the fields. Many of us use all of these concepts, but using them more purposefully will help bring the musical learners and all of us into the sounds and patterns of any of the things that we are doing. For instance, when we are making a device, thinking about the sounds that it makes as the music of the machine might help students better understand whether or not that machine is making a good noise or a bad noise. Here we will touch on a few concepts in physical arts. Our athletes can more easily remember information when connected to action and play because they are primarily kinesthetic learners who connect their knowledge to movements. This leads me to advocate that all learning should involve manipulatives so that all students can connect tangibly to the theory and the content they are asked to learn. Again, we as technology and STEM teachers do this exceptionally well. I will ask that as educators, you start viewing your classes as a track coach views a track team. We can't send all of our long jumpers to the meet and expect to win, nor can we take all one type of student, put them in one class or on one team in a class, and expect a balanced result. Spreading the talent and interest around the teams makes for well-balanced teams, and students learn to understand where they fit in on a team, who they can help, and who they need help from. This helps them prepare to be on sports, academic, and work teams. When students are focused on athletics, there are many ways to engage them in looking at the subject studies behind the athletics, like the evaluation of turf grass. What devices and technological components are there? What engineering advancements? What mathematical statistics? What managing styles, ethics, medicinals are available for the physical education world? Covering all of these subjects brings me to the culminating issue of what STEAM education is. We create themes based on 9 subject area silo vertical mapping using backwards design. When we work with schools, we do this vertical mapping and help them create themes to incorporate the standards in each of the divisions they need to cover so that they are not feeling like they're adding on extra, but that what they already have to cover is being incorporated with one another so that they can offer a tangible project that significantly impacts what their students have to learn. Here is an example of our most popular theme for 6th grade. It's called Inputs, Outputs, and Impacts. We place this here because it's on the cusp of when students are starting to get abstract thought. So it's the end of their what, why stage of learning. Students learn about materials and processes and the results of what is found in science and made into technology. Then they are asked to undesign things, redesign things, and innovate on them to learn about moving from technology into engineering. All students should learn electronics and coding as they link between hardware and software. And we have come up with a 10-minute project to illustrate for them how to do this. This project is appropriate as long as they can add, so 2nd grade and up. If students leave elementary school with a concept of the connection between hardware and software, they're ahead of many high school graduates. An example of a favorite project for this theme is one I was introduced to by Steve Petrina called a black box, where students have to guess what process happens in the box. And as long as it makes sense and is correct, they are correct. They are never shown what is inside the box and if they are technically right or not. It gives them the concept that there are many ways to solve a problem, and if you solve it, it's a correct answer. Many inventions are made by 12 to 16-year-olds because they have abstract thought and a wide open passion for learning and exploring. Their brains are fresh and most willing to overcome failures to learn more. To me, I believe we should have middle school and high school students on research, engineering, and design teams globally so that we can take this wide open curiosity and have it where we need it most, in our developmental labs to make the world a better place. Here is an example science-based STEAM project. We asked students to make a one-room house and label it with parts of an animal cell. Then they were assigned a disease that affects cells, and they had to adjust their apartment cell to reflect what happened as the disease progresses. They connected knowing what a functional house has with the concept that a cell is like a mini house that needs to function in its neighborhood. And when it doesn't have enough structure left, it breaks down, and then it starts to affect the neighborhood. Students got a great deal out of this project and were able to all have different diseases and interrelate with each other about the transference of knowledge between how a disease affected one cell and not another. I teach STEAM with a game of Weiqi, also called Baduk and Go. If you've heard about Google's AI program beating the world's best Go player last year, you should know it was a critical point in artificial intelligence, showing that computer brains can now almost think like human brains. Since this game was a crux in that decision, many people have started playing it again. I have been teaching with it for 20 years. I highly encourage all of you to introduce it. There are only 3 rules. I am terrible at playing this game, but I can teach it. If you are interested, there are free kits available to your classroom. STEAM education uses this game because it shows the science of mediums, the technology of creativity, strategy, materials, and processes, the engineering of cognitive development, left and right brain balance, and the beginning of understanding binary coding, mathematics of patterns, binary, calendar, and analytics, also the basis of calculus. Social studies helps learn the mutual respect and history of the game. Unlike chess, it is not about obliterating the opponent, but finding a place for you and the opponent on the board, and in the world. The arts includes references to poetry, fine arts, design, aesthetic, and counting thinking. Since this game offers insights into all the subjects, I think it's good for all students to learn about. It offers them a fun and challenging game to illustrate how all of these things are important in the world, on the board, and in their own personal lives. To me, no one project is as important as setting up STEAM teams. To best promote students, we want to pursue lifelong learning no matter what they want to become for a career. So we need to show them how to figure out what their individual skill sets and personalities are best suited for to be able to work on balanced teams. When you put a variety of types of learners on teams, it allows academically advanced students to further investigate topics and tangents, and also allows challenged students to find a way to fully participate, learn, and teach others. All participants have ways that they are advanced and ways that they are challenged. When they further investigate and coordinate topics and tangents with one another, they will understand where even if they have been seen as a straight A student, they can certainly learn from others who have likely had more opportunities to work with tangible items. We want our students to learn to fail forward, to be challenged just enough to know that with more effort they can accomplish the task, but not be so challenged that they want to give up. Everyone's perspective is important, and everyone else should understand others to collectively think of things that make life better for everyone. When we put students on teams together, they naturally grow up understanding those cross perspectives better. We want our students to have a group identity and pride, and not only think of themselves, but as everyone as a team moving forward. We look at shifting from a me to we philosophy of education. When students are taught where they are as an individual that would best fit into a collective, they have more acceptance of other types of learning and perspectives, and they get along better as a society. We have seen that this helps them solve conflicts and also create better products for the common good. All of us should be concerned with sustainability. Limits and consequences of resources is something we need to teach our students. Water quality issues, using things like biorestoration to restore things in the environment with other natural things, is an excellent example of this. This topic affects all cultures and societies, and as the world population grows, all educators should help find ways that they can develop the future society to sustain themselves. not only environmentally, but financially as well. All societies interrelate economically and ecologically. Students can have small businesses and make sellable items to fill community needs. Hopefully, they will learn to purchase responsibly, use more renewable resources, and throw less away. Also, to make money locally and learn about cottage industry. Then there's global education. How are we teaching our children versus children in other communities? What can we learn from other countries that's working there and be able to appreciate that? To give you a brief scope of who is appreciating STEAM, we have now worked with over 2,100 educators, including 60 full staffs of whole schools in 39 states and 15 countries. There are many more people wanting to work with us. We just simply are not a big enough company to get there. So we're looking for other educators to help spread the word of what STEAM is and become part of our collective so that we can take what the best is that we find out there and share it with one another. People want to hear what are the student benefits of STEAM. The students in my programs are making connections and transference among the topics and learning how to apply their skills. They rely on others with different skills to help with other areas, solving other problems or creating designs. This helps them strengthen their skills that are weaker. When content learning is tied to real-world problems, the students take a deeper interest and are more engaged in the content that them as individuals need to know. This also reflects in their behavior towards realistic discovery learning. They tend to be more excited, more on target, and more focused when they feel that there is a real outcome of what they're doing and not just another piece of paper to fill in the blanks on. When they do realistic discovery and innovation, they also want to explore on deeper levels. They come back into the school with extensive knowledge of information and investigation they have done on their own. It's pretty exciting to see. It is hoped that this will help students understand what a good society is, made up of educators, students, and business people in a network as a balance working together to help bring society forward. It also allows for students to pick up culturally relevant topics to understand that they have a voice already in framing their future. This is an important part of adding the human side to the hard sciences to promote discovery learning. We'd like to invite everyone in this webinar to, of course, visit us when you come to the ITEEA conference. We'd also like to let you know you have the ability to bring middle school students to Chicago for a student STEAM co-teaching conference every May. Please ask us for more information about those opportunities. I hope you feel like you have a good basis, quick overview of what STEAM might mean and what it might mean to you. We're now introducing our new character, GeoSTEAM, who you can have your students put in an area they want to learn or teach about and submit a short reasoning on why, and we will select some of them to write lesson plans about. The concept is that the educators in our network co-create the curriculum, and that we as a central company only vet that. We don't create the curriculum for everybody to go out. We want our educators and our students to contribute to what they feel should be taught and how it should be taught, and matching that to the standards. We hope you enjoyed Steaming It Up, engaging innovative curriculum for students and educators by students and educators. Dare to dream. Go STEAM on. Have a great day.